Surrender is forbidden. Sixth Army will hold their positions until the last man and the last round. Adolf Hitler to General Paulus on January 24, 1943. The Battle of Stalingrad will long be remembered as one of the bloodiest and most important battles in all of human history. Before the Germans marched straight into the Soviet city of Stalingrad in 1942, they were plowing through the Eastern Front, which in the May of 1942 spanned 1,500 miles from Finland to the Black Sea. The Non-Aggression Pact of 1939 between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union was broken, and the German war machine was pocketing and crippling Russia's defenses. It was seemingly inevitable, as both ideologies required the eventual domination of Europe and the German Army Group North, South, and Center commenced Operation Blue, the renewal of the assaults of the Russian oil fields on June 22, 1941. They marched through the Russian motherland, headed for the Caucasus oil fields, where the Soviet Union produced over 70% of their oil. However, it wasn't just oil they were looking for. Hitler was searching for Lebensraum, or living space. This would be used to cultivate food for what Hitler hoped to be the strong and vast Third Reich, and would also give German citizens a place to live. Stalingrad eventually came into the interest of Hitler. Destroying the city would desecrate the Soviet leader Stalin himself. Stalingrad had other important uses. It was a center for transportation, being a train yard and being situated on the Volga River. Plus, it was a factory city that produced up to a quarter of all Soviet tanks. On the way to Stalingrad, the German army came across the city of Voronezh. The city was nothing special, so Hitler told the army that they could conquer it if they wanted. This led to confusion among the troops. They decided to capture the city, and it took the Nazis 10 days to do so. In those 10 days, the Soviets were able to bolster their defenses in Stalingrad, and on November 19, 1942, three Russian armies counterattacked the Nazis, and the next day, two more joined, officially starting the cruelest battle in all of human history, and one of the most important battles of World War II.
Hitler and the Germans assumed they would earn a quick victory. One German soldier wrote, "We are buoyed up with new hope and confidence. I don't think there was one of us who wasn't convinced that we were winning the war. We were in a state of intoxication." But the Soviets put up more of a fight than they expected, because the Nazis were nearly undefeated at the time and had no reason to think that they could lose, especially to Slavic communists. When the Nazis invaded Stalingrad, they destroyed it by carpet bombing the city, decimating it and its defenses, and burying hundreds of civilians in the rubble. They sent in land troops to finish the job quickly and easily, but there was one thing Hitler did not take into account: the Soviets' will to live. German forces were cut off by 3 Soviet armies, and 300,000 Germans were trapped inside of Stalingrad, slowly being chipped away by the Red Fist. Stalin gave the order that if anyone retreated or surrendered, they were to be shot. Battles raged from blocks to streets to even inside single buildings. Oftentimes, shots would be fired so that one could take control of an attic. While it may have seemed that the Germans had no chance of winning, they continued to fight. However, the Germans' rescue attempt was destroyed by the Russian siege. Soviet forces implemented snipers to take out high-level German officers from hiding spots throughout the city. Vasily Zaitsev, arguably the greatest sniper at Stalingrad, was a young hunter from the Ural Mountains, whose grandfather taught him marksmanship. He landed in Stalingrad on September 22, 1942, and was promptly made a sniper after a brigadier saw him rapidly kill 3 German machine gunners. Both armies fought hard, and Soviets began using propaganda to raise spirits. Russian leaders saw the opportunity and made Vasily a poster boy for the Union, plastering him on propaganda everywhere. He was turned into a legend, and it was even said that by the end of the battle, he had killed 243 enemies, only shooting 242 bullets. Moscow radio played a message on Christmas that stated, "Every 7 seconds, a German soldier dies. Stalingrad is a mass grave." The citizens of Stalingrad had it rough too. Without food, thousands of civilians died, and others began eating the frozen corpses strewn about the battlefield. The average lifespan of a Soviet soldier during the height of the battle was only 24 hours. German soldiers needed their supplies airdropped, but the most they could be provided with was about 90 tons of supplies a day, a third of what was necessary. One time they were supplied with 8,000 right shoes, but no left ones. The average German ration consisted of watered-down soup, 2 ounces of bread, and the lucky ones would get a small slice of canned meat. To add insult to injury, some Soviets would cook food in the streets and let the wind carry the smell of food to the starving Nazis. On January 29, 1943, the Germans were separated into 2 groups. The Germans had lost their hope, their pride, and their will to live. Their living conditions were horrid. They had no food, and they had already lost many others. Some German commanders ordered their soldiers to shoot them. Others stood in front of the Russians, hoping for a quick death. Even when the Sixth Army was out of ammunition, rations, and hope, Hitler still ordered them to continue to press on. To further this point, he promoted Paulus to field marshal, because no German field marshal had ever surrendered before. Despite Hitler's wishes, Paulus surrendered to a Russian artillery lieutenant named Fyodor Yelchenko on January 31st, 1943.
After the battle, it was the beginning of the end for the Nazis, and the beginning of the rise of the Soviet Union. The Soviets became more celebratory, starting to actually decorate their war heroes, as opposed to the dull gray colors they used to have. A Russian tank commander once said, "At the beginning of the war, everything was done in a hurry, and time was always lacking. Now, we go calmly into action." Soldiers started to feel more confident in their commanders because they were chosen by their skill, not their relationship with the Communist Party. Stalin also started to become more of a public figure, where before the battle, he would rarely make a public appearance or address the people directly. Afterwards, he was everywhere. Radio, newspapers, posters. He wanted everyone to know Stalingrad was saved because of his genius. While in America, political cartoons often painted Stalin as a warm-hearted uncle you would like to have over for dinner, not the cold, ruthless man he really was. The civilian population fell from 850,000 to 1,500. Out of the 300,000 German soldiers trapped in Stalingrad after the battle, 90,000 were taken prisoner at the end of the war, of which only about 6,000 ever saw their home again. In addition to that, the Germans lost 3,500 tanks, 12,000 guns, 3,000 aircrafts, and Marshal Zhukov estimated a total of 500,000 German deaths. Because of the immense number of dead bodies, oftentimes they put them between railroad ties and burned them. Nikita Khrushchev once wrote, "I went once to watch, but I didn't go a second time." Napoleon or someone once said that burning enemy corpses smell good. Well, speaking for myself, I don't agree. It was a very unpleasant smell, and altogether a very unpleasant scene. Even though the Soviet government never released an accurate number of Russian casualties, it's estimated about 1 million Russians died. Of those, about 13,500 were taken out by the Soviet NKVD secret police because of acts of cowardice. For the Nazis, it proved they were not indestructible. They could and would be defeated. While the Nazis before the battle were expanding and taking over everything, afterwards they were defending their land and what little bit of pride they still had. Within the next 2 years, the world would witness the fall of Hitler and the Third Reich and an Allied victory. In contrast, the Soviets showed to the world to not mess with them and proved they deserved to be a major world power, as well as to respect them. This also legitimized communism as an ideology. Stalingrad was a grim reminder of the cruelty of warfare and other humans. It showed what people could and would do when their back is against the wall. It will long be remembered as one of the most important battles in modern history.